Today, we take a break from the political season to discuss developments in an unresolved matter. There are several Indian political leaders whose killings, followed by alleged botched-up investigations, cover-up and slow judicial process, have possibly resulted in the denial of justice. One such case is India's former Railway Minister, Lalit Narayan Mishra. In a political career spanning 22 years, Anand Mishra served as a parliamentary secretary, member of parliament, deputy minister of home affairs, finance minister of state for defense production, and minister of foreign trade. On the 5th of February 1973, Anand Mishra became the Minister for Railways in Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's cabinet. 2 years later, on 2nd January 1975, Anand Mishra was assassinated at the Samastipur railway station moments after he finished his speech at a broad gauge railway line inaugural event. A grenade was thrown at the dais, causing grave injuries to Anand Mishra, who later succumbed at the hospital. The case was investigated initially by the local police and Bihar CID before the CBI took over on the 10th of January 1975. After adjudicating the matter for over 40 years, the trial court held 4 people guilty and awarded each life imprisonment in December 2014. The 4 persons held guilty include 3 followers of Anand Margis, Sant Oshanand, Suvinand Gopalji and advocate Ranjan Trivedi. The trial court held that Anand Mishra was assassinated to create pressure on Indira Gandhi to release the leader of Anand Margis, Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, from jail. All convicted have been out on bail pending an appeal before the High Court against their conviction. It took over 40 years for the justice system to deliver a verdict. However, far from a sense of closure, Anand Mishra's family has been seeking a reinvestigation into his murder. Vaibhav Mishra, grandson of Anand Mishra, believes that the CBI changed its course of investigation in the murder of his grandfather and that the real accused went scot-free. Today, developments in the court offer a ray of hope to Anand Mishra's family that continues to believe the real culprits never faced the justice system. The big question today is what can be done now to take up the serious, brutal and public assassination of a sitting Union Minister of India. I take this conversation forward. With me is Vaibhav Mishra, grandson of Anand Mishra, who's been taking this case forward in the courts. On his behalf, fighting this matter in the courts is Mr. Ajit Sharma, Senior Standing Counsel. We also have with us in a short while from now, Mr. Prabhat Jha, former member of Rajya Sabha and National Vice President of the BJP, who will also be joining us. But let me begin this matter with Vaibhav himself. Vaibhav, if you could firstly explain to our viewers, despite decades of investigation, what is it that makes the family today believe that the real culprits are still out there, that the real culprits never faced the justice system?
Thank you so much, Devika, for bringing this case to light again. We as a family members have always held back since 50 years, and it is not only just our understanding, but people at large, people of Bihar at large, people of India at large, that this was a very big political conspiracy to assassinate my grandfather. He was at that time Railway Minister, before that Foreign Trade Minister, various departments he had held before that. One should understand or try to understand to what happened after his death. This was 6 months before the emergency. So at that time, the India of today is completely different as to what was India of that time. He was assassinated. In fact, he was taken when the bombs were lashed upon the podium to kill him. He was not taken to the nearest hospital in Darbhanga, but he was taken to Danapur. The train which took him from Samastipur to Danapur took about 14 to 16 hours. Since I've keenly taken the trial court records and seen them, there was a committee which was set up just to see if the train was delayed and purposefully taken slowly from Samastipur to Danapur to give him medical help. Yes, the committee's finding was yes, the train was purposefully delayed and slowed down. Maybe the intention was to ensure that he passes away in the train itself. Yet he survived. It was not on 2nd January when the bombs were lobbed to kill him when he was killed. It was on 3rd January. He survived that day, but he was passed away unfortunately next day because I think he had a cardiac arrest. Even during the meantime, when he took gathered consciousness amongst himself and spoke to people around him, his main concern was for his younger brother, Dr. Jagannath Mishra, his younger brother, who later on, of course, became Chief Minister and Agriculture Minister of India. He was more concerned about the well-being of his brother and other people who were injured in the attack. But unfortunately, he passed away on 3rd January itself. Now, how the case became tumultuous and took different directions is in the following way. First, Bihar police investigated. After Bihar police investigated, CBI took over. Certain people were arrested. Certain people gave their confession statement under section 164 CRPC before the magistrate. I want to differentiate not before the police, but before the magistrate in Samastipur court. In their confession statement, they started taking certain names. Now, those names were getting linked with people in the establishment, people in the government at that time in 1975. The moment those names started coming out, and those names were later on in Justice V.M. Tarkunde report. Justice V.M. Tarkunde was a judge in Bombay High Court, later on senior advocate in Supreme Court. Those names were there in a book called Who Killed Anand Mishra, written by Mr. Arun Shuri, who was a journalist at that time with Indian Express. Of course, later on he joined politics and was part of the BJP. Those names were also in the Bihar Police Secret Inquiry report. Now, this Bihar Police Secret Inquiry report was done under the direction of Mr. Karpuri Thakur, who was the Chief Minister at that time. And my grandmother, late wife of Mr. Anand Mishra, met and personally met Mr. Karpuri Thakur demanding for reinvestigation. So my family's stance for reinvestigation is not now in 2024 or in 2020 or 2021. It's been there since 1975 onwards. Because we did not have any belief that the people arrested by CBI later onwards were the real culprits, because the moment those names were taken by the initial accused in the confession statement, CBI itself filed a discharge application to let those accused go, and then a second set of accused were arrested who were part of a group cult called Anand Margis, and one of the accused in Anand Margis was later on made an approver. And there's an interesting anecdote here also. If you give me a moment, I'll explain that, where one of the accused who became an approver from Anand Margis was put in Danapur jail. So the jailer of Danapur was Mr. Haider Ali. At that time, entire Bihar, entire India had sympathy for my grandfather because he was assassinated and he was sitting railway minister. So Mr. Haider Ali on his own had put a transistor recorder in his pocket and asked this particular person from Anand Margis, who turned approver, as to why did he accept something which he has not done, which everyone knows they did not do. Then he started saying that CBI officers at that time, he used to come and beat him up, meet him and abuse him and tell him that he will not be able to meet his mother, so on and so forth. Now, this was recorded in the tape recorder by Mr. Haider Ali, who then sent it to Bihar Police. Bihar Police sent it to CBI. At that time, and I'm quoting Justice V.M. Tarkunde report, at that time, this particular jailer, because what he had done and recorded this confession, this statement by the approver of Anand Margis, that jailer was then transferred. That jailer was then transferred from that jail to another jail. And Mr. V.M. Tarkunde writes in his report as to why the PMO at that time, in the mid-70s, or late 70s, was so interested in transferring this particular jailer because he had recorded a statement from one of the approvers of Anand Margis. So people can do their own inference and interpretation as to who would have been involved, what would have been the conspiracy, and what must have been the names.
So essentially, anybody and everybody who became associated with the investigation, either they were sidelined or they were transferred, and somehow during the course of the matter being shifted from the Bihar CID and the Bihar police to the CBI, Weber, what the family believes is that the entire trajectory of the investigation was changed the moment certain names came out. That's what Weber was saying at this point in time. Let me bring in Mr. Ajit Sharma as well, who's argued this matter before the courts. Mr. Sharma, I'd like to just understand from your perspective, when you read the timeline of the case and the information that is in fact available today in official records, what do you make of what truly happened? Was it suspicious, the fact that the trajectory of the entire investigation was changed midway out of nowhere and no reasonable explanation was perhaps provided for the same?
Yes, absolutely. I think, at this point in time, one must understand the context in which criminal trials take place. It's the duty of the prosecution is to say that, well, there are some people who are guilty. The duty of the defense is to argue in favor of their clients and accused and say they're not guilty. But there is a duty of the court itself to say that on the basis of material that is before the court has to assess whether or not the truth is before the court or not. And if not, then it's the duty of the court to unearth the truth in every criminal trial. Right? So here is a trial going on in 75, and thereafter for 40 years it went on, where the trial court had several pieces of evidence which clearly pointed that there is a deficiency in investigation and the way prosecution has also been done. Now, once this material comes to you before the knowledge of the trial court, it was the duty of the trial court then to call all these people before the court. Or for instance, what prevented the trial court from calling the Bihar police officer who submitted a detailed report to the Chief Minister of Bihar saying that, sir, the investigation has deliberately taken a completely different turn. In January, the assassination happens and some people record their confessions. The Home Minister makes a speech in Parliament. We've caught the accused persons. In June, the emergency is imposed. And then suddenly, the people take the name, these people who were arrested take the name of one Yashpal Kapoor, who was then private secretary of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and the investigation completely takes a U-turn. Then CBI itself, who's till now been saying that these Arun Mishra and Arun Thakur are the two accused persons, now takes a U-turn and says, I'm sorry, they were not the accused persons, but somebody else is an accused persons. Right? These are the facts before the trial court. In addition to this, Justice Tarkunde's report, in addition to this, Indian Express report, Arun Shauri's book. Now, there is ample material that investigation was not properly done. The trial court ought to have therefore called all these people in the dock and examined them and said that, look, it is my job to unearth. There is a murder that has happened. There is an assassination that has happened. Who's the guilty person? We have to find out. We have to unearth the truth. Nothing has been done. And there is compelling evidence, Devika, here that not just a one person, but senior officers, Bihar police, Justice Tarkunde and several others, as Vaibhav pointed out, which were part of the trial court record proceedings, but still the trial court was absolutely unmoved in even attempting to examine any of these or look into this new piece of evidence to see whether or not there is a botch up in investigation. Because it's, as I said, it is the duty of the court. And this person who comes into the picture, this one Mr. Yashpal Kapoor, upon coming into whose name the whole investigation trajectory changes at the behest of the CBI. Interestingly, Yashpal Kapoor, private assistant of Mrs. Gandhi, was also the same person who was instrumental in Raj Narayan versus Indira Gandhi case in getting set aside Mrs. Gandhi's election. The allegation even then was that Yashpal Kapoor, being a government servant, was Mrs. Gandhi's election agent, and that he utilized the state machinery to help her in the election process, which is why the Allahabad High Court then subsequently set aside her election. It's the same person now whose name comes up in this investigation. And the moment his name comes up, the trajectory changes. So therefore, just as a matter of law, what has happened, that is a matter to be investigated. All Vaibhav is asking right now is that there should be fair investigation. There was ample material before the trial court to reinvestigate the matter. It did not.
Right.
It proceeded to pronounce the verdict. So he has to come now to the High Court.
So Vaibhav,
And reinvestigation has taken place in several other instances as well. Best Bakeries, Sikh riots cases.
Yes.
After conclusion of trial, courts have reopened these cases.
okay, Vaibhav, what do you think then went wrong as far as the investigation was concerned? Because like I said, it's been over 40 years now. So perhaps for the first initial decade or so, one can say that there was political pressure, as has been alleged in this particular case as well. But over the years, why do you think the courts never really changed the way they approached the facts and evidence that was out there?
So I'll answer this in two parts. First, the particular CBI head at that time, Mr. D. Sen, I'm now quoting Justice Tarkunde report and the Bihar police reports. Mr. D. Sen was about to retire at the end of 1975. Because of the change in trajectory of this investigation, his tenure was extended, and he was then awarded on 26th January the next year. For reasons people can interpret themselves. What happened later on was, because the case was going on in Bihar only, prosecution agency was CBI, but because Bihar police was doing a parallel investigation, the chief, under the direction of then Mr. Karpuri Thakur, Chief Minister of Bihar, and Justice Tarkunde had given a report, there was a transfer petition filed in Supreme Court to transfer the case from Bihar to Delhi. Government of Bihar, Bihar police, Mr. D.P. Ojha, Mr. S.B. Sahir, renowned IPS level officers, Mr. Haider Ali, whom I just referred to, they gave affidavits on record to Supreme Court, do not transfer the case from Bihar to Delhi. The moment you do so, the case will be sabotaged automatically. Supreme Court, in its wisdom, and transferred the case, saying that CBI can do its job properly and the investigation will take place properly, even if it's transferred from Bihar to Delhi. But unfortunately, 1979, 1980, when the case was transferred, the case was sabotaged because it took from 1980 till 2014 for the trial court to give its judgment. And in 2014 also, it gave its judgment when one of the accused or a set of accused had filed an Article 32 petition in Supreme Court saying that they should be, this case should be ended and they should be go scot-free because this case is pending from time till eternity. Supreme Court said that because system is going slow, cannot be reason for let you go as set off as accused, but it indirectly told the trial court to move a bit faster in its pace. So I think from 2011 till or 2012 till 2014, the trial court increased its pace. But I believe, it's my personal opinion, that the trial court blindly relied on what the prosecution was saying rather than doing its own investigation and trying to find the truth. And that's why it gave life sentence to the accused in 2014. But had this case been tried in Bihar, as it was before 1970, 1980, I think the case would have gone to its logical conclusion. The truth might have been come out properly. And had Bihar police been doing the investigation, which I think it was doing so properly, and the truth would have come out much, much, much earlier, and we wouldn't have still be sitting in 2024 trying to find the truth. So in 2014, when the trial court gave its judgment to the accused, after that, the accused filed their appeal in Delhi High Court, and that appeal is still pending in Delhi High Court, in which we are asking now for a reinvestigation and appointment of an SIT over the agency as to how the trajectory of investigation changed, which will now be heard and has been taken on record by the High Court and will be heard in the month of May, 16th May.
Okay, Mr. Ajit Sharma, at the same time, you say that there is ample of evidence out there, but what is the likelihood, as per you, as a lawyer, of the matter in fact being reinvestigated, and what would that then even entail? What becomes the end goal today if the matter is reinvestigated?
See, as far as likelihood is concerned, I mean, we believe that we have good grounds to seek likelihood. That's for the court to decide. Once the court is convinced and looks at all this plethora of evidence, this whole basket of evidence, to say that, the initial investigation leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And this is a fair matter which has to be investigated. There's not one person, but several of them have come in the front now are saying that this is a matter where investigation was botched up. So we are relying upon all of that evidence to seek reinvestigation. That's on likelihood. Two, if the court is convinced and does agree with us, then the court may either constitute a special investigation team comprising of a retired judge or senior police officials to investigate the matter. Court can direct the CBI itself to reinvestigate the matter. So the reinvestigation will be a de novo reinvestigation of the matter, that yes, from the very beginning as to who are the real culprits, why was investigation done in a particular way, that will also be investigated. Who are the people behind turning the trajectory of the investigation to a predetermined result? All of that will form subject matter of an investigation. And court is likely to, if it's convinced, then constitute an SIT or a committee to investigate this matter in a time-bound manner so that justice is done. These are not just pure objectives that trial must be done and concluded speedily. The victims must get the justice that their families deserve. These will have to be seen in action as well. So court will be cognizant of all these aspects and direct the CBI or the SIT to reinvestigate the matter.
At the same time, Mr. Sharma, the people who are currently convicted, what really then becomes their fate? And like I said, how does then one go about finding the real culprits? Is that simply then going to become a conviction on a piece of paper, because some people may or may not be alive at this point in time either?
Look, it's at the outset, it's extremely important for the victim's family to get closure.
Yes.
We can't be in a situation now where a 1975 some incident occurs. We're in 2024 and still the first appeal is pending. And the victim's family think that they've not even got any justice from the courts, because somebody says, I have convicted, that I have committed the crimes. Then CBI later says that, no, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. Not you, two people who we kept in jail for 6 months, but some other people have now come to the fore. They have committed these crimes. That's the manner of investigations. The victim's family has not had any closure. They're entitled to it. And irrespective of the passage of time, it's unfortunate, extremely unfortunate, but be that as it may, passage of time cannot be a ground to deny victims' family their right to closure and their right to know the truth as to who was responsible for the assassination of their grandfather, Vaibhav's grandfather, and also one of the leading politicians of our time, of that time. So even the people of the country, I'm sure there is a huge stakeholder base out there which is interested to know as to what happened to Mr. Anand Mishra. Was the investigation really botched up, or was it not botched up? Now, all of these are facts which will have to go before the court today. This is a bulk of documentary evidence. So yes, perhaps passing away of certain people may make a difference, but at the end of it, now there is enough of documentary evidence which is on record before the court, which will have to be examined by the court. And the court, after examining the documentary evidence, will feel that yes, this documentary evidence on a mere reading is enough for the court to direct a reinvestigation. And then the investigating agency which is appointed will have a tough task at its hands, there's no doubt about it. But they will have to examine two aspects. One, the real story of assassination. Who committed the assassination? Why did they commit? What were their motivations? And two, why was the investigation trajectory changed, if at all, by the officers at that time, and at whose behest? So those are issues which can be investigated. They're not beyond investigation. Passage of time will not render any investigation infructuous.
Okay. All right. Vaibhav, just, your perspective as the family itself. I want to understand, when we talk about closure in this case, what would that entail for you?
See, there's a saying in Hindi, "Jag zahir hai sachai kisi baat ka." So in English, I would say that everyone knows who killed my grandfather. There are whispers in the corridor, people at large, people in Bihar, specifically Mithilanchal, people of undivided Bihar, including Jharkhand, people of Purvanchal area, including Uttar Pradesh, because he did a lot of work as railway minister, as foreign trade minister, various departments. There was a famous Janta Express, in which he ensured, my grandfather ensured, that Madhubani paintings are embroidered on those trains, so that Madhubani paintings get a status which we see now every day. It was an idea of my grandfather back in the 70s. He ensured that lychee is exported outside India. As a railway minister, broad gauge lines were established in Meerut side and western UP. And as a railway minister, also ensured that Kanpur railway station and Kanpur side railway development is done. Before his death, he had allocated funds for the redevelopment of Varanasi railway junction, which was later done by Mr. Kamlapati Tripathi, the next railway minister. So this line goes on and on. My point in saying this is that people still remember him 50 years after his death. Then it is my own personal opinion that those who killed him, those who assassinated him, have failed. If he's still today in people's heart, not because of any other reason, but because of the work he did, then the people who killed him have failed in their objective. As a family member, I still get phone calls and messages from people telling me that what we are seeking here as justice for my grandfather is the right way to go, and I should keep going at it. Not just me, my whole family should keep going at it, because it's not just my fight or my family's fight, it's the people at large. People at large want to see the truth, and the justice should be meted out, and people should know whose conspiracy was that. Mr. Ajit Sharma said one name, Mr. Yashpal Kapoor, but in the reports, if one goes through that, and these are public documents now, so I can take the names also. Mr. R.K. Dhawan, Mr. Yashpal Kapoor, Mr. Ram Vilas Jha, MLC, these are the people involved. These were all connected to then PMO's office, then government echelons and administration at that time. So the name goes all the way up to that then Prime Minister in 1975, Mr. Indira Gandhi. So my point in saying all this is that I don't know if who was rightly involved, but the CBI does do reinvestigation in the case, then these names can come forward and come officially on record, because these names are there in the records of the reports mentioned, and these reports specifically say who was involved in what capacity. As if I just quote Mr. V.M. Tarkunde, he himself said that, why would the PMO or PM be personally interested in the transfer of Mr. Haider Ali, the story I was just referring to, from who was a sub-jailer in Danapur jail, from one jail to another. This shows the level of conspiracy which was there at that time. Who was exactly involved, how much was the involvement of then administration office, only the agency can answer. But my point in saying all this is that people would want to know. I get phone calls from districts, from Bhagalpur, I spoke to someone who was an IPS officer at that time. He was literally crying while speaking to someone when he got to know that this case is still being fought at and reinvestigation is still being sought for. He literally cried. I spoke to someone from Saharsa, North Bihar, who told me that his name is there in a notebook, जिसमें नाम लिखा हुआ, if I can say it in Hindi, जिसमें नाम लिखा हुआ जिन्होंने लकड़ी दी है मेरे grandfather के जब उनका death हो रहा था. His name is still there, and when he got to know that this case is still going on, he personally called me and told me this. So if I get personal phone calls, messages, and people from all age brackets, I was expecting these messages, phone calls from people of my father's age or my grandfather's age, but people of my age and younger than me are also messaging and calling me and calling our family that this case should be fought for and truth should come out. So if we get such messages, such phone calls, we are bound to fight for this and fight for justice. So our family seeks closure. That is our end game. This is not any political initiative or nothing for any political gains, but our only what we seek is the truth. And what we seek is that the case should get some finality, so that even 100 years later onwards, if people get to know, read about Mr. Lalit Narayan Mishra, the work he did, how much work he did for India at large, as a railway minister for Bihar and Northern India or South India or all over the country. People should also get to know how he was assassinated, why he was assassinated, and who were the real culprits behind his assassination. That is our main objective. So people get to know how the case was sabotaged and how who were the real culprits who were involved in the conspiracy and the assassination of my grandfather.
Okay. Mr. Kirti Uppal also joining us at this point in time. Mr. Uppal, I leave the last word with you. Given the sort of names that Vaibhav has also shed light on and the larger political implications in the findings of this case, how do you view the courts today now taking this matter forward and the investigative agencies today taking this matter forward?
In trying...
we can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just in the court. My apologies. Yeah, what do you want? What did you ask?
Mr. Uppal, there are certain names that Vaibhav has shed light upon which
I know.
indicate towards larger political implications in terms of findings of this particular case. I just want to understand from you, what do you think the courts today and the investigative agencies today can do given the sort of political history of the case we're dealing with?
See, let me put it like this. First of all, Vaibhav and Ajit, both of them have really worked harder than this brief. And the issue is not who all are there. The issue is that the Supreme Court, prima facie, has found out that there is something which meets more than an eye. And fortunately for us, there is one judgment which has come now, which is of Sajjan Kumar and all those people who were involved in 84 riots, and where the law has been laid down that it's not the number of years which will matter. It will be, at the end of the day, the justice should prevail over all those things. If, and as Vaibhav has said, and I was listening to that conversation, that there has been the 3-4 reports, Justice Tarkunde's, and then there is one Lieutenant Governor's report and all, which on the face of it shows that there were some these people whose name have come into the limelight, that they were involved. So let's see if the court agrees with us, which at least prima facie the court has agreed with us, then the law will take its own course. Because the criminalization of politics, see, if you have gone through that Mr. Vohra's report, unfortunately, yes, it started at a time when all this thing was happening. And he's been a very categorical in his report that how the criminalization took, and the rest is all history. And we know what all has happened during that period and what has happened to the late Lalit Narayan Mishra, somebody who doesn't agree with you, and then the next day you find that the man has been blown up into pieces. So I hope so. I mean, if the law agrees with us, then something will be done.
Right,
something
absolutely.
better will come up.
Absolutely.
So that won't make any difference to the court, who all were there and whether they are dead or alive. The fact of the matter will always remain this, that there has been something which I would say should be pinned down, and it must become an order of the day, that criminalization in politics like this should not be tolerated. I mean, that's what I understand.
Absolutely.
That's my take on this entire thing.
Absolutely. I thank all of our guests for joining us. Viewers, justice needs to be a part of our history. Remember, India is no stranger to political assassinations and deaths under mysterious circumstances. Young India actually lost the father of the nation, M.K. Gandhi, to assassination merely 1 year into independence. Then we witnessed the assassinations of two sitting prime ministers, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. Countless Indian political leaders have died under mysterious circumstances, including Lal Bahadur Shastri, Subhash Chandra Bose, Madhavrao Sindhya, Rajesh Pilot, Y.S.R. Reddy. In fact, India has also witnessed the tragic and untimely deaths of its key scientists like Vikram Sarabhai and Homi Jahangir Bhabha. But some of these high-profile cases have gathered dust as unnatural deaths. Some of them have received the attention that they deserve, but Lalit Narayan Mishra's case has not received the attention that it deserves. And that was our endeavor today, to educate our viewers on what really happened, what is it that the family is fighting for. And now, of course, the ball is entirely with the courts.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.